This is going to be a quick video because it's kind of just on the back of a couple of other videos that I've had a few extra thoughts about, and also a bit of a prompt from a customer that came in to the shop yesterday as well. So it covers the crisis of what's happening at the moment with the industry and people not buying, and where I think it's going. Also covers the little bit of issue I had with our fellow vlogger who was talking about the 80s and the 70s and that everything's happened before and it will be okay. And there was something in my mind that I knew was different, and I couldn't put my finger on it. I thought I know there's something there, but I didn't exactly know what it was. And obviously I've said about our ability to be able to buy caravans hasn't gone up at the same rate as the caravans have gone up, and that's kind of an economical thing. So it's that was part of it. But then I was speaking to a customer, thanks Dave for pointing this out yesterday actually, that actually the customer has also changed. Back in the 70s and the 80s and going into the 90s, we had the baby boomers, which had access to quite good reservoirs of wealth, because they bought their house when it was £3,000, £4,000 to buy a house, and the house prices shot up to astronomical prices in relation to what they paid for it. So all of a sudden the baby boomers were sat on a massive reservoir of wealth, which they were then downsizing the properties because the kids had gone, and then we had this surplus of money that they thought, well, what are we going to do? And it was easy to buy a caravan. So when you've got a lot of money, a surplus money that you've kind of earned by proxy, and not gone out and actually earned every single pound and penny, it's a lot easier to spend. I was fortunate that I bought my house just before it went a bit crazy, pretty much 6 months before it went crazy, and I benefited from that as well. And when Dave mentioned this, I thought, yeah, that's what it was. It's the actual customer has changed, and the ability for that customer to have access to a reservoir of kind of not free wealth, but you know what I mean, where it's you haven't had to actually go out and earn that penny and that pound, and then you see the value of it more than if a house has gone up and all of a sudden you pay £10,000 for it, and then you sell it 30 years later and it's £400,000. Then you've got that wealth that you can then spend on caravans. And that's who we saw buying caravans throughout the, I'm not sure it was the 80s. I'd say I wasn't really around then, so I don't know whether that was valid then, but certainly through the 90s and into the late 90s and into the 2000s, that's the people that were at the right age to buy caravans and keep the market buoyant, because they were still selling, every 3 or 4 years they were buying and selling, because again they had that reservoir of wealth, and some were still working as well, and now those people unfortunately are running out. Those people now are getting into their late 70s, into their 80s, and they're giving up the caravans. And although they will pass some of that wealth on to the next generation, I think, what am I now? I'm 52, and I haven't seen that come through yet, and I'm not worried if it does, to be fair, but I might be the last generation to benefit from that, because then when we see a bit of an inheritance, then it will, we may use it before it gets to the next generation, because we're not in the same position, and certainly the people that are younger than me now aren't in that position where they could buy a house and make money on it just by owning it for a few years and then selling it on. In fact, it's kind of even now, whereas the house prices are coming down a little bit. So, but they're certainly not earning as much as they were. Train. Sorry, they certainly weren't earning as much as they were, in the 90s, when you could buy a house cheaply and sell it for a lot more money. So that was, I think, the missing link. And I had a little bit of an epiphany when I was talking to Dave yesterday, and I thought that's what it is. That's the difference between the 80s and even into the early 90s, and then going into the 90s, we had these baby boomers that had a decent amount of wealth to kind of spend. And then decent pensions as well, because you were in the long jobs longer. Again, those days are kind of going as well. So I think that's what the missing link was for me, to think I know there's something different between then and now, and I couldn't quite put my finger on it. So I thought I'd do a quick video just to kind of put that out there and see if you think that is relevant as well. And that will have a knock-on effect, and whether the caravan manufacturers are probably fully aware of that, because they're a lot cleverer than I am. So that is going to be the issue, where as the caravan prices keep going up, again, the ability for the normal customer to buy it isn't there, because we haven't got this reservoir of kind of accumulated wealth that we didn't really have to work for. And it's a lot harder to spend an earned pound than it is to spend a pound that you've been gifted, or that you haven't had to physically go out and earn using, you know, the normal methods, i.e., you know, your house has gone up. It's a lovely thing to happen, but those days are gone. So that's the difference, and I think that is what is going to push us into a different way of having to do things in the future. And the manufacturers are going to have to think, right, okay, the market is going to shrink because we haven't got those people that have got access to that, and they're going to kind of spend it, not willy-nilly, but, you know, spend it a lot easier than if, you know, you were thinking, right, do I buy a caravan, or do I, you know, go on holiday somewhere else, or do I buy a new car, washing machine, and things like that. So that's what I just wanted to add into the mix, and to see what you thought. So do the normal thing, click like, subscribe, and the little bell thing, and share as well. That would be very helpful, and I'll see you on the next video.